We got a question here from NPC Liam. He said, it seems like the whole crew is convenience hardware in terms of emulation and whatnot. Sorry, let me say that again. In terms of emulation and whatnot. But do any of y'all have the original systems plugged in and ready to go, aside from having it in the background? Like, I've got all the stuff behind me. Carrie does. Russ does. Like, do you any of you guys actually have your old systems? If Carrie's reaching for something. Okay, for audio listeners, Carrie just panned his camera to the right. And what am I looking at, Carrie?
It's N64 with
CRT.
Super Mario 64. You can kind of see it right down there. Right there. Boop, boop, boop.
Oh, yeah.
That's Super Mario 64 into that CRT that I have over there.
Very cool. And when was the last time you played it?
I'm playing it with my son. So that's my original Super Mario 64 that I had from 1996. And I have 2 playthroughs on there where I have 120 stars. I played through it twice just because I love the game so much, and also there was no other N64 game for like a year. It's like Pilot Wing 64 and Super Mario 64. So I just played through it twice. It was amazing. It's still my favorite Super Mario 3D game. And my son is now playing through it, and he's at 64 stars right now, and I've been playing with him. And he's actually really good at the backwards super long jump. He can go up the stairs that you can't do, like unless you get enough stars. He's like Dad, check this out, and I'm like zoop something like that's so awesome. So I have that set up, and I only have my N64 set up right now. My N64 is on top of a PVM that I have as well. So I have a few different. I have a 35-inch Sharp and this PVM. The Sharp I got is new to me, but I picked up from someone that was just getting rid of it because people get rid of old CRTs. And I had a Sony one. It died because a chip inside of it said that it should die. But if I could just circumvent that, the machine would technically power on. So I had to get rid of that one because the Sony it was too new. It was like a 2006 last of Sony factories for making CRTs. And they had just enough technology in there to make like obsolescence chips put in there. And it's like, why did you guys do that? I know why you guys did it, but why would you do it? So I got that Sharp. But yeah, it's important to play on CRTs. And I'm thinking of actually the RetroTink 4K is going on sale like March 6th or 8th or whatever. And I'm heavily considering buying one just so that
Can you remind me the price of that? Because I know it's really expensive, but I don't remember.
$700 or $750. But it's
for the audio listeners, you got to see Rich's face. Go to youtube.com/nerdnest. His reaction was priceless.
Yeah, it's just like I mean, when you look at what the quality that you can get out of it on like an OLED, it can do BFI. You can do they just released news today of like this enhanced S video mode. So people are making this a DB15, so a VGA port. A VGA port that goes in, that on the back side of it is S-Video in, and it will S-Video already separated the chroma and luminance, but this is going in through the DB15 that goes through this mode on the RetroTink 4K that makes it look like RGB, like it's so good. Like the quality of it is fantastic, and there's a bunch of machines that I have where I can do S-Video out. I have a bunch of S-Video cables, like original S-Video cables. So I just need this dongle that goes in the DB15, and Bob's your uncle. I'm off to the races. I got some top tier stuff there. So all the stuff that RetroTink does, and Russ has talked about BFI at length. BFI is not what you go over your relative's house and they have motion clarity on where they're inserting fake frames into a thing and you can instantly spot it, but they can't for some reason. And it's like, oh, how could you watch this? And they're like, watch what? I'm like, it looks terrible. They're like, what are you talking about? And then I have to turn it off, and they don't like it because there'll be like a judder, and the judder is there because of the LCD backlight being on all the time and having that like frame persistence, right? So just putting on BFI is making it more film-like quality, like the CRT and like all that other stuff. So you can have that same frame rate, and it's so pleasing to the eye. It does diminish brightness, but it's such a big thing. So if you have an OLED with a RetroTink 4K, you can do all these things super easy and mimic CRT-like qualities on an OLED. So it's really, I'm not going to be able to have these like a PVM in this CRT. They're not going to last forever. That's the reality of it. And I'm not going to be able to repair these for like they're just going to go away. I there's a part of me that I want to wait on the RetroTink 4K because it's like I want the 4K plus or whatever, and that's what I'm like, kind of like, do I really need it right now? I don't really need it right now, but there is a desire for having a thing that can sit in front of it that be a nice scaler for a ton of different sources. Like even thinking about like getting an Amiga from Europe, which is like, PAL. A PAL signal can go into that and then go into my OLED. I can't do that here. So it's like this magic box that sits between all of these devices and makes beautifulness on the other end on something that I can use. That's worth $700. Like, it's outrageously good, and yes, it's expensive, but it for people that have all this stuff that want to have the original feeling of stuff, it's the best way to put on modern displays. That's all that it comes down to.
Russ, do you have any systems actually hooked up?
So the TV behind me, not anymore. So I used to have all of those. So I have NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Wii U, Wii, GameCube, PS2, all back there in the kind of back kind of slots that I have. I had a lot of those hooked up, but it was hard because I didn't have enough plugs, and they all have like those big black bricks, and so it's like I just didn't have enough space to plug them all up, and then all the cables and whatnot just look so bad in my filming, and so I had a point where I was only hooking one up at a time. So if you watch like my older videos, for like a month it was all GameCube games on the back, and then for another month it was like PS2 games, and I got rid of all that. Now I just have a mini PC hidden back there that's running Batocera, and so now I can just kind of run it like a screensaver, like I'm doing right now. So I don't have any of them hooked up anymore, but for a while I did, and I wasn't playing them very much because it's not a good location. Like I'd have to sit in my chair there and then, play like this, right? Yeah. And so we would do that. We would stand and play for a little bit, me and the boys and stuff. But yeah, I don't have this is my only CRT, and so I don't really have anything original hooked up anymore. Although the other day I was working on a video, working on getting the GameCube boot logo working on emulation, which is pretty easy. It's a matter of using the BIOS files. But to kind of illustrate my point, you can. So to illustrate my point, I took my CRT, I put it over to my other table, and I put the GameCube up, and then because I wanted to record like pushing the power button and then the sound and all that stuff. And I played for like an hour because I was like, well, I got this guy hooked up. Let's play some Mario Sunshine, and Soul Calibur 2. And so that was awesome. I love playing on CRT. Like the input latency is just so good. It feels so natural. I just don't have the setup, for me and my kind of location to have.
There is something really nice about intros, the intro to consoles, though, isn't it? Like every one of them, like you think about like the PlayStation 1, right? Like the, like it's like, oh yeah, epic. Yeah. It's there's that specialness, the chasing nostalgia type of stuff that is super sweet. One of the things that I like to do, Russ, is the older retro handhelds that had like the 3.5 millimeter out, and you can do the RCA plugs. Yeah. One of the things that I really like to do on that TV is I put a bunch of old TV shows on that little handheld, and I just plug it in, and then I run some like I watch Computer Chronicles. So I put Computer Chronicles on my TV, and watching on my TV, it feels appropriate. So it's like, I don't know. That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to do it that way. It's kind of a silly thing because I have like this little tiny battery powered video player that's meant to be playing console game, emulation, and I'm just streaming old video to a CRT. But I really like it. It's like one thing that I you do need a CRT for it, but it's really nice.
For a while there, I was playing, or not playing, but I was watching Starcade on Twitch, which was like this old game show where people would like do video game trivia. It's like from the 80s or 90s. Or I think it's from actually, no, not 80s or 90s. It was 70s or 80s when this was on. Very early 80s, if it was in the 80s. And like they would come on and they would answer questions about video games, and then they would like the winner would go and like play an arcade game, whatever the arcade game was that day that paid to be on the show, and they would be like, if they get this score or higher, then you would like win something. And it was really fun. Like they're just streaming on Twitch because who cares? Nobody
right.
Who cares? So I was watching that, and it's fun. I love watching that kind of stuff. Rich, are you chasing nostalgia by plugging things in, or are you just going to emulate?
Yeah, I have a Switch plugged in right now. It's super retro.
So no?
No. No. So I have in my garage, and it shouldn't be in a garage, right? But I have like a couple older systems, so PS2, Wii U, Dreamcast, and every once in a while I break them out. But honestly, like, it's not, convenience is a huge factor for me, but also I don't actually play that much in terms of retro gaming. Like I do a lot of like modern indies that are styled as retro, but I don't very much go back to like the NES SNES library. I'm all about the indies pretty much. So yeah,
That's fair.
yeah.
I have all of my stuff back here. None of it's hooked up. It's all like decoration, and I don't. Most of it probably doesn't work. But one thing is I keep this on the shelf, and I take the batteries out of it because I want it to last as long as possible. But every once in a while, I will throw the batteries in, and this is Donkey Kong 2, which is this old Game & Watch multi-screen handheld. And let me actually start the game.
I love it.
And basically, Donkey Kong is up at the top, and Donkey Kong Jr. is down at the bottom, and you got to climb all the way up and bring him a key, and then the key falls back down to the bottom, and you got to climb all the way back down to the bottom, and then climb all the way back up to the top. You do it 4 times, you free Donkey Kong, and there's like little things that you got to jump over, and it's I don't know if they even have emulators that allow you to play games like this, because this is like, it's a watch. Like, the graphics are like little still images, and now that I started it, I have to take the batteries out, otherwise I'll just keep beeping, because there's no way to shut it off, which I'm sure drove my mother crazy when I was a kid,
Right.
because it just goes bleep 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 all the time. Russ, do you know if they have like, I've never even looked, do they have like Game & Watch
They do.
emulators?
They do. There's a RetroArch core for it, so you can play them. They even have like overlays that'll show the experience and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
that's
totally a
awesome.
thing.
I'm
Not,
gonna
not
have
every
to check
game's
that
on
out.
there, because I've gotten emails from people and be like, I'm trying to find this one Game & Watch kid from my like childhood or whatever, and it's like not there. And so there are certain games that aren't playable, but there's a big I'm sure that Donkey Kong 2 is on there, so the popular ones are usually there.
Yeah. All right. That's cool. But thank you.
You know,
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Russ?
I was just one thing to mention along those lines is that my family and I are going to Japan in a couple weeks for spring break. And so that's one of my goals while I'm there, is to do some hunting for like older handhelds. So like things like the Wonder Swan and stuff like that. So I'm interested to come back and like get some of those and then review them like in today's kind of world and see how that is. I've been on the hunt for a while for a Famicom as well. So like the Japanese version of the NES, and so I have a lot of those cartridges because they're a lot cheaper than our NES games, and so I've been building a library, so I'm going to do some shopping while I'm there too.
Cool.
If you can get your hands on Donkey Kong 2, you should, because it's actually really a fun game. It is. It is actually fun, and
Nice.
I don't know if that's just my nostalgia, because when I was a kid, I had this in my back pocket everywhere I went. I loved this thing.
Got some time to kill.
So cool.
Time for some Donkey Kong 2.
That's right.